Hi everyone, this is Chaz versus James, played on, I don't know when it was played, 11th of May, there we go. Let's get into this. There's actually not much to this game. So we start off with Aurelio Lopez, and Black has played the 94 line. After takes c3, this is all good. This is where it kind of goes downhill for Black. I think moves like Bishop c5 is the sort of idea. You kind of want you want white taking, and you want to be able to take back with the bishop, and the bishop sitting on d4 stops white from playing d4 himself. And both players have developed a piece. White has the center, but Black's position is playable, especially since he's going to get a tempo with c6 and maybe getting d5 in through the middle. Oops, not that. However, in this position, Black took the pawn on c3, and that's just terrible, because after a knight takes, White has two pieces developed and the center, and Black has nothing developed. This is the basic principle of development. You don't want to give your opponent free moves like this. So what's happened here is Black is wasting a move, taking the pawn back, and White is taking back with a developing move. So Black's move of taking on c3 doesn't develop a piece, doesn't control the center, doesn't get the king to safety, whereas White's reply of taking the pawn back does develop a piece. And with the d pawn no longer on d4, White is then free to grab the center. So it's a pretty common principle in chess that all chess players need to know this. So taking on c3 is no good. And our bishop c5, this is not a very good move at all, because it just gives White a free move. He gets to play d4. He gets a free tempo on the bishop, attacking the bishop, and gets a pawn in the center, and frees up a line for his bishop to get out. So this just gives White a whole extra move on top of that. So right back here, Black's position's quite playable. This line is fine. He just needed to play bishop c5 and develop a piece. If White takes on the center, he's wasting a move, and during that wasted move, Black wastes a move. But at the same time, with a bishop sitting on d4, you stop White from playing d4. So getting back to the actual game, after this, White's position is so strong. It's just terrible. You can't expect to be able to play as Black in a position like this, where you're a million tempos down and your opponent has the center. It's just you're in for a very, very tough and hard game. Now the bishop went to b4. The question is, why didn't it go to b4 in the first place? I really think maybe bishop back to b6 would be better, because on b6 it puts pressure on the pawn here, on the d pawn, and you're about to go c6, d5, and try and carve out a bit of the center for yourself. This knight can sit on e7, and you can castle. It's going to be a bit of a cramped and uncomfortable position, but you might be able to slowly fight your way back into the game. After this, though, I think you can't even hope to get d5 in anymore. I think White can just play queen b3, hitting the bishop and guarding d5 at the same time. b3 is a good place for the queen. Sorry, d5, not d3. So if the bishop takes and the pawn takes and you go c6, you can go bishop here now, and you've got 1, 2, 3 pieces guarding d5, and there'll only be 2 pieces attacking. Only 2 pieces that can defend the d5 thrust, which basically prevents Black from getting d5 in. Not to mention the fact that the immediate threat on f7 is a pain to deal with. And here the engine's suggesting some interesting moves. I can't imagine that they're any good. The idea is to play this move here, but there's a massive problem. The bishop just goes back to d3, and if you take with a queen, your opponent trades queens and then grabs a b pawn, and White's just a pawn up. This pawn here is a backward pawn, but c4 should be coming, giving White a passed pawn for the rest of the game. And the 2 bishops in an opened up position, it's just a very strong position for White, but it's probably the best thing Black could go for, to be honest. Okay, let's just get back to what actually played. Queen b3 wasn't played, though a3 was played. I think this is okay, but I would have preferred queen b3, because now Black can get d5 in. So after takes, You've got to move like c6, for instance, which seems, after the bishop moves, you can then go bang d5 and get a pawn in the center of the board. Not sure how white should handle that. Maybe he should take or something like that, or e5. I mean, e5 gives you this advanced center pawn. White's two bishops are very strong, but black gets his foothold in the center. White has a lead in development, but yeah. So after takes, if you take back with the pawn, for instance, and castles, black can sort of just maybe get his king to safety. I mean, it's not really in safety with a million pieces pointing at the king's side and the queen jumping out to h5, but it's black might be able to put together some sort of defense, especially after he castles. His knight can sit on g6, for instance. Okay, so after a3, takes. Black didn't play c6, which he pretty much has to, I think. He played a6, and the engine considered this the second best move, but I don't see why. This a6 move doesn't help you control the center, and it doesn't help you get your pieces out. I mean, after bishop c4, for instance, what do you actually do? Is the plan to play b5? Charging these side pawns up the board before your king is safe doesn't seem like a good idea to me. So after bishop back, black is never getting d5 in. So where are we? a6, the bishop went back to d3. Why didn't it go to c4? I mean, the engine doesn't mind d3 at all. I'd just be a bit worried about d5. I mean, I'm not sure what the idea is here. How do you play against this? I don't think you want to take it, because you've got no way to kick the queen afterwards. According to the engine, you kind of have to take it. And after queen takes, yeah, it's still good for white, because white's almost fully developed. Black's king is still in the center. There's this rook check coming in very soon, and neither of these pieces are developed yet. And white does have the center. So after bishop d3, d5 wasn't played. Black played d6. Now, you're going to have a very cramped and very bad position for a very long time. You've got to try and get a foothold in the center somehow. White just castled, which was good. Knight f6, that means that when white does ultimately play e5, he's going to be getting it with tempo on the knight. Maybe e7 is a better spot to put it. With the knight on e7, this king side is very weak. Once you castle, this queen coming in and bishop coming in and everything is going to be a pain, but at least, moves like bishop here might be able to be answered by f6, and black maybe one day can hope to go c6, d5. It's tricky. But he played knight f6, and yeah, I mean, that runs straight into the pin, so I'm sure white loved playing that move. Now this e5 move is becoming very, very scary. Queen f3 with the idea of double isolating his pawns is very scary, and just throwing rooks on the e file and the d file and charging through the center is just very very hard to deal with. So black hit the bishop straight away. Good that white didn't take. He just retreated, which was good. g5. I mean, where's this king going? This king has no future. And yeah, white. I'm loving white's position here. Now, maybe black just needs to castle into this and hope that white can't break down this king side. He has to get his king out of the center. There's an e5 push coming any move now, and this king is going to get stranded in the center and get destroyed. So how to save your king is a tricky part. I mean, even moves like bishop here, just with the idea of move the queen and castle queenside or something, might be a way to play. d5 creates an outpost on e5. Yeah, but what he played here, I think, was absolutely very wrong. Even though it's pretty high up in the suggestions made by the engine. He played h5, charging down the king side with his pawns, but his king isn't safe. All white has to do here is open the position up. open up the center, and black is going to get destroyed before he ever gets a chance to do any fun tactical stuff with h4 and get this attack going. Um, yeah, I mean this is the move that you want to play, but you need your king to be tucked in a corner somewhere first. And yeah, I think developing something like that would be much better. So h5 is played. White did very well here and just crashed through the middle. According to the engine, f4 is even better. With the big three-liner pawn. It's the idea being that a move like h4 is answered by, well, you could answer it by just taking this, actually. It's very interesting. It's an interesting line. Takes, rook takes. You know, there's this thing here, but the king just hides behind the pawn. And this king is in deep trouble. You can imagine doubling or tripling occurring on the f-file. And the bishop can't defend the f-pawn from e6 like this because d5 kicks it. Okay, so where are we? e5 was played. I think that's still the right principle. Just open up the center, just rip it open. D takes e5, letting it open up. Oh no, that's not the way to play. I think you gotta move the knight. Even if you do move the knight, the center gets open. It's pretty bad no matter what you do. Okay, he took, and then the bishop took. That's good. The e-file's now open, so a rook on the e1 at some point is going to be devastating. And this knight is pinned to the rook, so thing moves like queen f3 are pretty scary as well. It's very hard to imagine why black surviving this. If he was already castled queenside, maybe he could find some defense to this, but this is just crazy. So he played bishop e6, finally getting that bishop out. And I mean, looking to jam it on the e-file to block any sort of rooks down here. It's the right idea, but there's just too much going on. There's d5 thrust coming pretty soon. You know, I may take the knight in d5, probably getting the rook on the e-file first is the idea. There's also this queen f3 move, which is threatening to win the knight and threatening to win the b pawn. And once this pawn falls, this king is never finding a safe spot to go. Queen f3 looks good. Rook e1, that is very clever. I like the idea of playing that first. The immediate threat is just take the knight and then go d5 with the pin pylon. So the rook is pinning the bishop to the king. d5 will attack and win the pin piece. And so black has to get his king off the e-file immediately. You know, move like king f8 or something has to be played. It's not pretty, but yeah, he needs somewhere to go. He played h4 and ignored the lot, and that's it. It's game over. Queen f3, I like this, threatening to just win a piece. So rook h6 was played, and then he just went and grabbed this pawn here. And yeah, I think that's kind of game over right there. He has to play something like king f8, I think. I think that's the only move he's got. Get the king off the e-file. Anticipating, yeah, I mean, there's this queen check here. This doesn't really do anything. The main problem is a move like takes the knight and then d5, winning the bishop. This pawn here is on pre as well, and this queen can't get off the back line because the rook is on pre. Yeah, I mean, a move like rook b8 seems like the sort of thing you can try and do. That can be immediately answered by a queen check if you want. You could probably just take the c7 pawn if you wanted as well. The engine is actually suggesting queen a7, which is an interesting looking move. It's most players be thinking grab the a pawn, grab the c pawn, or throw the check in. Playing it a7 is not what I expected. The idea is, I think, to be able to bring the queen along these black squares onto c5 and stop the king from running to f8 and stranding the king in the center of the board. So anyway, after he took the pawn, black went and then did this, which is just pretty much an instant loss of the game. You got the discovered check, which is what was played, and the king has to move, and then the queen just drops back to b4 and checks the king, and this queen is left on pre, and there's nothing black can do. Well, he played queen d6, trying to save the queen and block the check at the same time, but that runs straight into this bishop fork. And now it's pretty much game over. Takes, but pawn takes. It's running into this pin, isn't it? Rook takes is going to be the move here. Not that it matters. You're a whole queen down, so yeah, you still try and put up the most resistance you can. Queen a5. Yeah, white found it. Very good. And yeah, this is game over. This rook is lost. Black played this, and then yeah, queen there, rook there, takes. Takes, yeah, and it's going to be mate very soon. King went there. Queen, what? Oh, sorry, I just saw an instant checkmate with queen here and then rook e7, followed by a mate on g7 or something, or h7 or f7 or somewhere. He took here. This should still be lead to a very quick mate. f7. I think he has to go to g8 if he wants to delay it. He went to f7. That just allows rook e7 check. King f8, and now it's mate in 2. Just rook here, king there, mate. Which is not what was played. What? He played rook a7. What? Okay, it was still mate. He just has to go queen here, check, and then either mate on f7 or h7, depending on where his opponent goes. But he didn't. What? Okay, I got a feeling white is just toying with black now. I know Chaz well. I know that he would have seen this whole checkmate thing. He's just stuffing around. Okay, let's just play out the rest of the moves without too much commentary. And yeah, just rook queen mate there. Okay, well played by white. That was very good. Excellent opening play. Black really just threw the game away, but not with any particular giant blunders. Not anything major. Not any major blunders. They were more positional mistakes, more strategic mistakes. And it all started here when he decided to take the c3 pawn, just losing a move and ending up in a position without the center and 2 pieces down. And and this move here just threw away a whole nother move, giving your opponent the center and a way out for his bishop. This is kind of beginner stuff almost. Well, it's what I try and teach beginners. It usually takes them many years to learn it properly. But yeah, I mean, the bishop going to b4 is much better than here. But really, c6 straight away and trying to get a quick d5 in and fighting for the center is the way to play this. Yeah, and after all this happened, black went and played a6, and c6 is definitely the move. I mean, it helps support a d5 push. You kick the bishop away, and then bang d5. If the bishop goes here, that's doubly terrible because you get d5 in with tempo. And after it takes, you're hitting the bishop. You don't need to worry about this sort of thing. You just block with the bishop, and this backward pawn gives black excellent chances for a lot of counterplay. So yeah, a6 after all that just doesn't make any, it isn't the sort of moves you should be playing. c6 definitely. You get a chance to hit a bishop with c6 and then follow up with d5. You do it in the opening in particular. Okay, so there's quite a bit to learn about opening play there, and I hope hope anyone watching takes that advice on board. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.